Hi, my name is Uncle Don, and you are listening to This Thing in the Mod. Polygamy is a cure to cheating, but not until a woman wants to marry two husbands, the lady wrote on Twitter. Now, as far as I could tell, her tweet was directed at anyone and everyone who believed that it was acceptable for a man to marry two wives, but not acceptable for a woman to do same. But most importantly, it was also directed at those who believed that marrying two wives would solve the issue of cheating. Because variety, as they say, is the spice of life, and Papa Iyabo cannot be eating egusi soup every single time. Oh, okay, let me see. So, where does that leave Mama Iyabo? Well, I guess she too likes egusi mixed with some okra, right? Anyways, let's go on. You see, I was astonished as I went through the tweet and saw that the comment section was on fire. One man responded and said, "I don't see any problem with her marrying two men, if she can handle it and take care of the two men." Another lady said, No, the males are supposed to take care of her, which is why they've got two of them. But I've always wondered what it would be like if a woman married two husbands, which I'm sure is happening somewhere in some part of the world right now, and lived under the same roof with them. Would the woman be switching roles and dictating her own mood of order in her house? The other day I had posted something on my status, and I had a few friends leave me comments with their subtle opinions, and some tried to warn me to be careful with the path that I was taking, because even my mother would come after me if I had said something stupid. One of my friends replied to me in a long letter describing how women had always championed the family interest since the beginning of time, and now this would be nothing to them. Another female cried and said, "I would do it happily." She was responding to my question on whether women would be willing to trade roles with men, well, apart from the natural phenomenon of childbirth. But since we are talking about polygamy, I decided to ask a few females if they would be up to talk about this, and I found someone who was willing to explain to us how she would manage the whole process and how it would look like in her home if she was married to two men. Before we go into this short interview with this person who has decided to remain anonymous, I have a 3-part story to tell, and it borders on the same subject, maybe slightly different, but something close. This is to help us understand how far polygamy has come in our culture. On the women's side. Many years ago, Amaro Talbot, a female missionary from Europe, accompanied her husband, who was also a missionary, and settled in the southeastern portion of Nigeria, presently called Akwa Ibom State, which is where I'm from. They settled in Eket in particular. The majority of the people in the area spoke Ibibio, and she published a book called Women's Mystery of a Primitive People, a book on the Ibibios of southern Nigeria. The Ibibio people culture and tradition were described in this book, but the focus was on the Ibibio lady, her practices, and what the Ibibio woman went through hundreds of years ago. The story of one particular lady who had a colony of women to herself really caught my attention. In the days of old, women could be banished for some reason. Maybe they stole something or had no children or suspected to be thieves. Anything. This particular woman, who was powerful and had a colony of women, would often take them in. One day, a male hunter had gone to hunt in the bushes and discovered the colony. He was so intrigued and excited to find a colony littered with women who were probably naked and walking free. And so he hid under the tree and watched. But in the process, he got caught by the women and he was being brought into the colony. Well, of course, he became a slave for them and did whatever they said he should do. It was because of this that the women had the idea that they could actually catch men and be married to them in the colony. And they did. Now, the story is a lot longer than this, and if you'd like a copy, let me know. The second time I heard of some interesting marriage story by a female would be the story of my maternal great-grandmother. She had married her first husband and he died early in life. But before he died, he had a grown-up son, and according to customs at the time, my great-grandmother had to be married to the next man of the house, which was the son. No jokes. And she was married to him, and they had kids. Now, the reason for this was to make sure that my great-grandmother had a child for the family, because obviously they had married her in the first place, and she hadn't had a child for her husband before he died. After a few years, when my great-grandmother got older, because obviously she was way older than this son of our late husband, she looked out for a lady and married the girl to him, and then told him that she was done with the marriage. As I was researching this, I came across different stories of people married to two men. The term is called adelphic or fraternal polyandry. It is not unheard of men to have more than one wife, with many cultural practices around the world even supporting the habit. However, it comes across as an unusual thing for a woman with multiple husbands. Polyandry is a form of polygamy in which a woman takes two or more husbands at the same time. Now, for example, fraternal polyandry is practiced among Tibetans in Nepal, part of China, and part of northern India, which two or more brothers are married to the same wife, with the wife having equal sexual access to them. Although largely uncommon in Nigeria, there are tribes in Nigeria that also follow polyandry. Among them is the Irigwe of the northern Nigeria. Women have traditionally acquired numerous spouses called co-husbands. People in Nigeria practice a woman having a co-husband until their council voted to outlaw it in 1968. Until then, women moved from house to house, taking multiple spouses, and the children's paternity was assigned to the husband, whose house the woman lived in at the time. All the places you would hear polyandry being a thing would be China, Kenya, South America, but none of this has really explained if the men lived in the women's houses and you call them your husbands. The three of you live in the same house and you provide them with all the needs and wants like a polygamous man would do. I mean, the ones that do it well. So, to answer this question is our anonymous guest. Okay, so good afternoon, Anonymous X. Should I be calling you that?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so for those of you who do not know, my first guest on the podcast is called Anonymous X because she has decided to remain anonymous on the podcast, and I don't know why. I would have loved her to be, a bit open with her name, but that being said, we can still go on with the interview. All right, so we were talking about, gender equality, and we spoke about different women role in the past. We had a question, actually. I came up with 4 different questions that I wanted to ask you. And I wish I had recorded that conversation so I could put it on the podcast, but, because things happen spontaneously, that was gone. So we decided to put this out there. Now, the first one basically says, what is gender equality for you? Now, I know you have different opinions about this, but I want you to tell our audience what you think about gender equality.
Okay, first we should start by asking, what is equality? Equality basically means giving same resources or opportunity to each individual or group of people. So when you say gender equality, you're saying giving the same resources to both male and female. Now, as a person, I believe in equity, because equity means that each person has different circumstances, and when you're giving each of them the same resources, at the end of the day, they're still going to be unequal. Okay. Do you understand?
Okay.
But then, when you say equity, what you're doing is each person has different circumstances, and then you're allocating resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you understand.
I get it, 100%. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so now I can actually say that, because in my head I thought you were going to sort of, defend the equality card that most women normally say, oh, we want to be equal with men and all of that.
No, really, gender equity is just the process of being fair to both men and women. That is what equity is. Equity is a process to achieving equality.
Okay.
Do you understand? Because equality requires equal resources, goods, resources, and reward. Do you understand? Unlike equity is, okay, where are we at this point? Where are these people at this point? How do we get to a level ground? Do you understand? So allocating the resources needed to reach an equal ground. Do you understand? So that's what equity is.
Okay, all right. Now, moving on. I think we'll probably get back to that. But based on the subject matter that we have on hand, I remember you and I speaking about the idea of a woman getting married to two men. Do you remember that? Exactly. So I took something out of this, and I wanted you to tell us. And the question, the way I phrased the question was basically in our first conversation, like I said, and in pushing the equality card, you said that you could handle the idea of having two husbands and meeting all their needs, like any polygamous man would do to his potential wives. I mean, for those ones who actually do it. But you also said that you wouldn't like to live under the same roof with these two men. So can you tell us why? I mean, we get the whole idea why you would do that, but tell us why.
Okay. Do you mind if I bring back where all of this conversation came from?
Okay.
Okay. So, because I think the question was apart from giving birth, which is a natural phenomenon. What was that question again? It was more like, okay, so apart from giving birth, which is a natural phenomenon, what else?
Would you switch roles? Yeah, would you switch roles?
With women switch roles. And I remember saying that in the old times, women stayed at home and performed majorly household duties while the men worked on the field. And even at that, the women were still involved in the processing and harvesting, packaging and sales of this end produce gotten from the farm and wherever by the man. And even women have always done much more, but their roles weren't recognized and basically relegated to being homemakers. Now, nowadays, women have gained more confidence by owning up to their respective abilities, and switching roles haven't been a problem.
Okay.
Now I said, ever wondered why women are infiltrating the male-dominated spaces?
Exactly.
A woman's physical and biological framework is not the only thing that makes her different, and is not stopping her from playing any role.
To the more popular polygamous home where the man has 5 or 4 or 2 wives,
If you can take care of them.
Of course, if you can take care. And I must say that you have people who are able to do that, take care of their wives very much. And some people say that they're actually happy in the marriage. Some women say that they're actually happy in the marriage. So my question was based off on that. Would a woman, or would you as a woman, want to take up two husbands and say they live under your roof? You do everything that a man would do to having two wives.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What does a man really do? No, I'm just asking. I'm trying to question to you.
Okay, I'm going to answer you, but I'm supposed to be interviewing you here. Okay, no, anyways, so the thing, there's a lot that the man does. He provides resources, money, and all of that. He takes care on an emotional side. He has to also take care of the kids. He's there for those ones who are actually there.
I think I saw in the news a woman that had 5 husbands or something.
Okay, but the question is, were they living in a house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it all boils down to an individual. So men marry more than one wife and have them housed separately, while some have them housed like in the same place.
Yeah.
It's whatever works. So if a woman decides to marry 2 husbands or 3 husbands, as long as she can take care of herself and all the emotional baggage, that comes with having extra, then
what do you mean by extra?
It's extra stress. This would need attention.
So now you accept the fact that there's an extra.
I'm saying that even the men that are polygamous, they know that there's stress when wife A would need attention, wife B will be calling for attention. But then where there is understanding, love, and communication, I've seen homes, they're able to pull through this. I'm a product of a polygamous home.
So you said something during our conversation the last time, and you said that you could actually take on marrying 2 husbands, if I'm correct. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was really, really, it was an interesting, topic that we were talking about. And I wanted to know, but you also said that, you wouldn't live under the same roof with them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know why. Yeah, exactly. Staying separately. And I wanted to know why. Why?
Okay, so,
yeah, go on.
So, even as adults, right? Adults who have roommates and flatmates, there are days when you just want to be by yourself. Do you understand? There are days when you just want to have your space. There are days when you don't need anybody around you. And these are the things, not everybody understands boundary.
Okay.
You understand? And in as much as you might be able to put up with the A, let's say person A and person B now. Let's say person A understands this and you can keep up with it. Now, person B does not understand person A. Now, they would have clashes. So to avoid the clash, it is safer to be apart.
Okay, so quick one. Now, I get what you're trying to say. But let's talk about having children. Okay? In a polygamous home, as a woman married to 2 husbands, how would you manage that?
It's simple. My people say that it's the mother of the child that knows the father of the child.
Okay.
And then DNA test.
But why do you think that people actually have 2 partners to start with?
Well, I don't know. They used to say something like some people are tired of eating a particular meal.
Okay.
I like to experiment. Okay, it's better having 2 wives so they don't cheat.
But is that always the case?
And having 1. I don't know. Not been there before.
But you said you agreed to marry 2 husbands. You told me that you would marry 2 husbands and it would not be a problem. So I'm just wondering, why would you do it if you wanted to?
Comrade, no, don't go. I'm just, it's like this.
Okay.
Sometimes in life, sometimes you don't know what you want. You know what you want, but you don't know what you might end up doing.
I wanted to ask if there's actually always love in a polygamous, setup, but that's a question for another day. You know what? That being said, I'm gonna come to my final question, which is just basically me asking you that in an ideal world, would you encourage polygamy or polyhenry, as they call it? Would you encourage that?
Whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you. All right, that's fine. Listen, it has been a wonderful time talking to you, and I'm really, really happy and that you came on the show and you gave us your opinion about this topic. And I know after this that I'm going to have a couple of people, telling me or sending me messages and all of this and telling me, but all the same, I'm happy that the lady came on the show and, was bold enough to say, hey, listen, I think it's something that is doable. I could possibly marry 2 men and live with them and manage it properly. So yeah, if you're out there listening to this and you feel like, it's the 21st century, and it's 2022 and anything is possible, yeah, go ahead and see. Let's see how it goes. I've never actually seen anyone in particular. I've heard, but I've not seen anyone in particular who has gotten married to 2 men and lived in the same roof with them. So there you have it. Thank you so much, Anonymous X. I hope that I get to have you again on the show when I have more complicated topics. Okay. One last word. Do you have anything to say? And so that was Anonymous X speaking to us on the subject of polygamy. I don't know what you think about this, but if you think that it's something that is possible or that is something that is doable in the 21st century, drop me a message. Let me know what your opinion is on the subject. And tell me if you could do this as a woman, marrying 2 husbands and living with them under the same roof. Next week is a storytelling week where I talk about my childhood. I hope that you tune in. It is going to be an interesting one. See you soon. Ciao. This thing in the mod. Storytelling at its very best.